It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.
It's time. It's episode 98 of the ATM podcast. Our man Mark Watson, a broadcaster extraordinaire, a man of much international acclaim, calling the Paralympics from Paris. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the best stories you've seen, heard so far, observed. The flyover and the so-called offence by the jumbo jet and the DJ who pushed the wrong button at the wrong time and drowned out the last bit of the All Blacks haka. But more importantly, the All Blacks performance, especially that first 60, 62 minutes against the Boks.
Apologise to me!
Mark, welcome back to the show. You are immersed in Paris, and I love the videos that you've sent me. Man, that basketball you were calling in that stadium was just going off.
Yeah, Bercy Arena, same venue that the basketball at the Olympics was played in. So where the United States won their gold with their dream team of this particular generation. And there's always a question mark whether the crowds will get behind the Paralympics following the Olympic Games. But they have. I have been doing the wheelchair basketball, and every single night for every game, doesn't matter whether France are playing or not, it has been a sellout of 12,000 people. And I have never come across an atmosphere in a venue like I had the other night, actually, when the French were playing Germany. When you're not commentating and you're sitting there maybe watching the game prior to you having to do your game or games, they actually hand out earplugs. I do not exaggerate. It is without doubt the best atmosphere of any stadium I've ever sat in. And then I was fortunate today to spend most of my time doing triathlon, and just the crowds out on the streets and downtown Paris supporting the para athletes and that. And so, look, a big heads up and a big congrats to the people of Paris and to the people of France for getting out and really supporting these Paralympics and really getting behind the athletes.
Yeah, I'm always just amazed when I see, people competing and with the disabilities, and I don't even know what the right way of saying this is or the language to use or the words, but I'm just inspired by it. When you see pictures of people like the young archery lady who has to do it with her feet, holds the bow with the toes and then pull. I mean, you're just sitting there going, wow, you've had that much patience. You've practiced that much. You're now so strong that you can do that. I'm wowed out by it, Mark.
Oh, no, look, it is remarkable. And then you heard some of the backstories and, some people absolutely born with their disability or their level of impairment. Others, it's come through accident. And, one day they have this life-changing moment and then, suddenly their world's turned upside down. And you'd imagine being, say, as an example, breaking your back and being paralysed and how you deal with that, and then suddenly you find this pathway and you find the light through the sports that are on offer here at the Paras. It is remarkable. I mean, just watching these athletes today in the triathlon, having to master the swimming when a lot of them have a really high level of impairment and don't necessarily have the use of their legs in the swim, or the amputees who are having to basically ride on a high-tech bike using just one leg and then having to get into transition and putting it on, a high-tech prosthetic, and then going out there and, getting themselves through 5K and just trying to get the technology right with maybe even the flex in the prosthetic blade that they might be running on, so that the other leg is, not having to sort of slow down or speed up to stay in time with maybe the way the prosthetic is getting its ping off the surface and stuff. So there's all these little factors that come into play. And then you see a lot of the athletes today, it's the same story. You just see them suffering out there. Then it's this big smile as they come down onto the blue carpet knowing they've won a medal. And then it's just tears. And I say it, you're sitting there and it's very hard not to get emotional as a commentator. I mean, you just sit back, you let it breathe, you don't say too much. In fact, you don't really say anything once they cross the line, and you just see the overwhelming level of emotion. And then you read their backstory and you can understand why this means so much. And equally, I think those messages and stories are really starting to get out there with the Paralympics.
Apologise to me!
Let's talk about what went on the field, because for 60-something minutes, the All Blacks, I thought, were mightily impressive. We lost our way. We've got to somehow figure out that last 20 minutes of how to shut a game down, and there's enough experience out there to do it, to stop making mistakes, giving away penalties, and to own the period of time where the All Blacks always used to own, which was the last 15 minutes. But I thought it was pretty damn encouraging.
Well, I thought it was actually, even in the loss, I thought it was the best All Black performance all year, even though we did lose. Look, and I'm not saying that I accept losing. I don't accept losing. And I'm starting to get a little bit sick. I'm just scared of apathy that's starting to creep in now that the All Blacks are losing. And they seem to be losing regularly now, a lot more than I've ever experienced in my lifetime. Yes, we've had some lulls, but not a lull that sort of lasted 6 or 7 years. Yes, we made a World Cup final, but there's been a lot of losses in the last 5 to 6 years, and we just don't seem to learn the lessons at all. Look, I don't think it helps at times when you always have these preordained changes where you just feel like you've got this player must be tired, so we'll take him off. It's like, well, he's actually looking pretty good. And why can't our top players play for 80 minutes? Oh, South Africa brought impact players on, therefore we need to match it. Yeah, but I think sometimes you come in cold, and sometimes, you've got players out there whose nervous systems are up. They're just in the moment. They don't actually want to come off. But, when you're bringing guys like Fletcher Newell on it, I'm sorry. I just don't see him as an impact player. But what disappoints me is you do have guys sitting there like Wallace Satiti. Now, you've picked them to be an All Black, but there still seems to be a reluctance to want to play them. You look at Tossie, this big ball-running prop from the Hurricanes. Why isn't he given an opportunity? I mean, Sam Darry's been given an opportunity. He has stepped up. So why not give these players you're picking them, but then you're still telling us that they're not good enough? And I guess that frustrates me. I mean, you take a guy like Wallace Satiti. This is a guy that kept Hoskin Satutu out. This is a guy that kept Braden Yose out of the small back team, who was outstanding for the Hurricanes. Get out there and play these guys. But look, another really disappointing performance from Beauden Barrett. I've always said this. I just can't understand the stardust that surrounds Beauden Barrett. He is so hit and miss at times. I was saying this last year. Yes, he has some good games, but for a guy who has played the number of games he's played for the All Blacks, to be able to just to make the basics mistakes that he made, I just don't know why everybody is so infatuated with this guy, why we go out of our way to allow him to go and play for Japan and just bastardise our Super Rugby competition, and then, say, we just so desperately need him through to the next World Cup. We want him when he's 36 years of age. There's no one else in this country. There's always someone else in this country. There's always been someone else. Who is that guy? Well, you don't know until you actually start giving them a bit of a chance. But, you've said it and I've said it, but we just keep going back to the same players who, at the end of the day, sometimes the common denominator in a lot of these All Black losses, Martin.
Devlin.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
The Platform.
It's only sport with Martin Devlin on The Platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.